author and podcaster Carlos Whittaker joins us now. Carlos, great to have you with us. Welcome. So you make a point that a lot of us need to hear, but maybe don't even realize about our own selves and how can we know if we are, in fact, addicted to rage?
Yeah, thanks, Jenna, for having me. I think that one thing we've all heard for not just the last few months, but maybe the last few years is, oh my gosh, my kids are addicted to their phone, or I'm addicted to my phone. And what I realized over the last year or so is actually we're not addicted to the phone. I like to say that the phone is simply the needle. We have to figure out what is the drug that's being injected into our ethos. And right now, what I see on social media is the drug of rage. And I think that a lot of people may have accidentally, without even doing it on purpose, become addicted to that drug called rage.
Yeah, and I think Charlie Kirk's death has made it even more so. We see the Charlie Kirk's death, we see, Jimmy Kimmel's suspension. All of these things have really just led, I think, a lot of people down some pretty angry rabbit holes. Carlos, what can we do as far as the content we consume on social media or who we follow to make our algorithm stop serving us what will make us angry and instead serve us something much more life-giving, much more hopeful?
Absolutely. I love that you say, the algorithm serving us what makes us unhealthy, because the truth is, we're all ultimately responsible for what it is we consume. There's a Harvard studies that show that the amount of data or content that we consume in 3 hours in one day is more content than our great grandparents consumed in an entire month. And I'll tell you what, I just, as a believer in Jesus Christ, God the Father, do not believe that God created us with the capacity to consume the amount of rage that we consume. One caveat I want to offer all of your viewers is that rage is not the same as anger. You can still get off of your phone and still be angry. You can carry that, I think, in a healthy way. You can be sad, carry that in a healthy way. But when you unplug from your phone, quite simply, the rage will begin to go away. So before you go to bed and immediately after you wake up, what I love to tell people that I speak to is make sure that last hour you're awake and the first hour you're awake, you're not on your phone. Spend time in the Word of God, which is living and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. And I promise you, the rage will begin to dissipate.
Yeah, I know. One thing Charlie Kirk kind of talked about was doing somewhat of a Sabbath with the phone, like Friday night to Saturday night, basically just turning it off, putting it away. To your point, it resets your brain, and it's just a really good practice. This is, you know something about this. You did a huge experiment about going without your phone, and you wrote a book about it called Reconnected. Carlos, tell us about exactly what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 2 months and I didn't look at a single screen. I got my brain scanned before and after. And in the middle, I lived with Benedictine monks and I lived with an Amish farming family. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you that the research is quite simple. I can tell at the end, my brain scan showed that my cognitive memory score went from the 50th percentile of men in America to the 99th percentile of men in America. So these smartphones that we call them are actually not making us smarter. But one of the most beautiful parts of this experiment actually had nothing to do with the phone. And it had to do with the fact that I got to live with the Amish. Now, if you can look at me, I'm not Amish. So they probably have a whole lot of different beliefs, ideas on politics, all sorts of things that I don't align with. But can I tell you something, Jenna? When I was able to live with them without a screen, it didn't matter how polar opposite our political views were. We were having 3 meals a day. We fell in love with each other, and they're some of my best friends on planet Earth now. So I promise you, when you slowly but surely disconnect from the needle of your phone that is feeding you the rage, you're going to be able to have the capacity inside of you again to maybe start healing some of those relationships you've lost the last few years because of differences of opinions.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what was that like for your family? Did you not have connection with them or communication with them for that whole time, or what was that like?
You know what? When I lived with the monks, I would call my wife from the monk phone. I called it in the office of the abbey there, and I would talk to her for about 10 minutes a day. But that was it. In the middle, I got a little bit, maybe 2 days of time with my family. So it was pretty difficult. But I'll tell you the benefits on the backside. My wife was like, I wish you would have done this 10 years earlier. And here's another thing I want to make sure your viewers know. You don't have to move to an Amish farm or become a monk to reset these rhythms and reconnect with the humanity that God has placed inside all of us. I have a phrase that I love to say: don't stand on issues, but walk with people. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you don't have opinions on issues. It just makes that you have to make sure that you have to make room for people that don't think like you do.
That kind of is a perfect opening to my last question for you. How can Christians, Carlos, model for the world how we can come together politically? You know, even if people in our own families, our friends, our neighbors have different political beliefs
Oh,
that they feel very tied to.
yeah, quite simply, I mean, this may sound way too simpleton for the person watching this, but listen, we have been told exactly what it is we are supposed to look like as believers of Jesus Christ in the Word. And so for me, if I've got someone that really bothers me in my family, I have to remember that we are called to be the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. I promise you, if you aim for those things in all of the relationships in your life, you will look a lot more like Jesus than if you don't.
Yeah. All right, author and podcaster Carlos Whittaker. Carlos, thank you so much for coming on Faith Nation.